settled back down and on its downward curve. Now it's somewhere in the 8,000 range. It's trading about a year later. Still, when we think about it, astronomical growth for a cryptocurrency that really created this, what I call Bitcoin bubble. And what did it do? It spawned an ICO craze that's got a lot of people's attention these days. It's incredible, yet ironically, more than half the ICOs in the past year have failed. So it's interesting how that works out. So everybody is racing to get into the Bitcoin market. How about Google? Think about that for a moment. They had their big I/O developers conference last week. They introduced hundreds of new features, a lot of new exciting technology. That certainly as a technologist, it gets me excited. But everybody's talking about probably one thing, duplex, if you're familiar with that. Now, we're probably all sick of the endless barrage of robocalls. I know I am. It never ends. You get that annoying robotic voice on your mobile phone at the worst time, and it can drive you insane with some pre-recorded spam message. Well, Google upped the game to a new level of AI, artificial intelligence, or depending upon how you put it, I call it sometimes annoying intelligence. But take a listen. I want you to listen just to this short audio clip, and I want you to see if you can discern who's the human and who is the robot.
So how can I help you? Hi, I'm calling to book a women's haircut for a client. I'm looking for something on May 3rd. Sure, give me 1 second. Sure, what time are you looking for around? At 12 p.m. We do not have a 12 p.m. available. The closest we have to that is a 1:15.
Very exciting. Drago's V-Armor call sign. Bob also served on the board for some cybersecurity 500 companies, which went into successful exits. Very interesting, is it not? We have Tom Kellerman, who'll be presenting today. Want to pay close attention. He's the Chief Cybersecurity Officer of Carbon Black, a hot company, again, on the cybersecurity 500 list. Look forward to his presentation. I'm going to read a quote. You may have read this. It says, the Cybersecurity 500 gives the same convenience and wisdom to people interested in the cybersecurity industry. IT departments, analysts, journalists, and consumers now have great lists from which to learn about the industry and its current providers. The Cybersecurity 500 list also offers a great window into emerging technologies from newer firms, which often solve problems about which everyone knows, but has been unable to address. This was stated by Joseph Steinberg, who's a well-known cybersecurity expert, entrepreneur, author, speaker, former Inc. columnist covering cybersecurity, and one of today's speakers, so we certainly look forward to what he has. The world of tech has turned our world upside down, certainly, but with cyber investing, we have a fighting chance. In fact, here's another quote from somebody we're about to hear in a moment. Cyber defense has never been more critical than it is today. And the Cybersecurity 500 recognizes the companies to watch on the front lines of the battle, stated Dave DeWalt. Dave DeWalt is a cybersecurity legend in the making, says Steve Morgan, who's the founder. Cybersecurity companies which appear on this distinguished list for 2018, including Optiv, Clarity, Elusive Networks, Forescout, ForgeRock. So Dave DeWalt is at Momentum Cyber, co-founder and chairman, and Allegis Cyber managing director. So now we want to take a time to please welcome David DeWalt as he heads us into our keynote that we certainly all anticipate. David.
So like most industries, cybersecurity industry has many different angles where not necessarily every company can either build within or acquire. In many cases, it actually makes a lot of sense to find a strong partner that might help form a lot of synergies for yourselves. And these can be global partnerships. They can be completely from off the grid, ones that you wouldn't necessarily think about. Maybe it's a finance consultant, and that consultant helps recommend your products. Maybe it's working with an insurance company or a law firm, but partnerships can come in all shapes and forms. And this panel is going to talk about some of the creative ways that they've actually formed partnerships across the cybersecurity industry, maybe some things that they're working on, and we'll let them take it away. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we've got James just walking down. Look at that. Yeah, I think we're actually operating right on time. Thanks, James. So I'm actually particularly excited about this panel because of the breadth of coverage that we've got from everyone here. We've got folks coming from the New York Economic Development Council, and then likewise we've got people who are operating within the IT security infrastructure, but then also those on the back end of that in the form of BRI. So what I'm going to do as we kick off is I think there's a few slides that we have, and so rather than just introduce names, I'm going to let the teams here, just essentially give an intro of what they do, so you've got a background because of the breadth of different organizations that we've got on stage. So we have the Andrew slides here. I'm Mary Dickinson from Arcus Cyber, and basically cyber partnerships are essential for success because there's just too much to do alone. It's not possible for anyone CISO to handle all the various threats that are coming at them. Next slide. We're Artemis, we're the Greek gods of the hunt, and we've created a cyber SWAT team with partners you can trust with solutions you can trust. And our cornerstone partner is Jack Devine, who is the ex-head of operations for the CIA, and another of our key partners is Socrates, who's joining us here and have a booth outside as well. And you are probably vulnerable if you're in this room to either GDPR or 23 NYCRR 500. These regulations are pretty draconian. We've heard a lot about GDPR, but we heard today about a $500 million fine, a large component of which was the NYCRR 500 penalty. So these are very, very broad regulations that touch upon almost everyone who touches money or anyone's information around money in New York State. We also also are active in cyber due diligence. M&A due diligence is critical. You've heard the TNT FedEx acquisition reference here. This cost them $200 million immediately and billions will write down later. You really need to add cybersecurity due diligence to your checklist.
So ERI, we are the largest information destruction provider in the country. And so we're really in the space as the physical safeguard at the end of your equipment. So when we're looking at building a cyber infrastructure, at the end, you want to make sure, no matter how much it's encrypted, no matter how much security you have in place. Next slide. And so really, we started on the environmental side as a recycling company, but more and more of our clients started really making sure that their PII was protected through the end of life. And recently, there's a study that found 40% of all hard drives that are out there at the end of life still contain PII even after they've gone through a recycler. So this is where we see the real challenges on cybersecurity is making sure that all the upfront protection you have is protected. And so what we do is we provide that nationwide footprint, and we're able to partner with any entities to really help them complete the chain.
I don't have any slides.
But you can introduce yourself.
Okay, good. So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm James Patchett. I'm the president of the city's Economic Development Corporation. So, we're the organization that's responsible for driving and shaping the city's economic growth. We have a lot of key functions that we serve in order to do that. We own over 60 million square feet of property in the city. We invest in infrastructure, and most relevantly to this panel, we invest in economic development initiatives to support key sectors. And right now, we are all in on cyber. And I think it's our complete confidence. We are completely confident New York City should be the global hub for cyber, given the amazing Fortune 500 companies who are here, who are all in the market for cybersecurity services, and the growing tech economy that's happening in the city that's really just become this incredible engine for growth over the last decade. Venture capital in the last decade in the city is up over 1,400%. It's grown faster in the city than in Silicon Valley. We've overtaken Boston. We're second in VC funding coming to New York City companies in the country. And whenever I travel internationally, I hear that everyone wants to be in New York. So I think we're super bullish on cyber right now. We're currently, we have a number of initiatives we're undertaking, which I can go into more detail on, but we're just really excited and believe and want to encourage everyone to come and build and grow their companies in New York City.
I'm going to just build off of what James mentioned there, because in my prior life, I was an operator and actually ran a couple of cybersecurity companies, most recently one based here in New York that we sold to Deloitte. And I've spoken to other investors now, and we all find it fascinating and feel like things actually do need to change, because the reality is the vast majority of the big enterprise customers for cybersecurity really are generally headquartered on the East Coast between New York and Washington, D.C. And yet, Silicon Valley has certainly become the location, the nexus, if you will, for cyber innovation. And I think that there's a lot of energy now to change that, and we're seeing a fair amount of that actually coming from New York, D.C. But at any rate, I did want to move on to the first set of questions, and we're going to run through a number of different ways that one can think about partnerships in the realm of cybersecurity. The first I want to talk about is the public-private partnership, which I think is actually essential to the space. I think it's an area where probably more than any other private sector, if you will, I think there's a fantastically successful relationship between public and private organizations because we are generally all fighting the same adversary. And so maybe perhaps, James, you could start on that, and also perhaps reference some of the international relationships that you guys have developed as well.
Sure, yeah, good. So I'm going to touch on, I guess, three areas where we are executing and believe the public-private partnerships really are the way to success in cybersecurity. So we are the public sector, so we're relying on the private sector in many ways. So as the first area is talent. So we all know it's one of the biggest challenges for growth in technology writ large, and so we are investing in talent at all levels to ensure that at the immediate, like the sort of immediate college level as well as the graduate level, that we're getting the skills that we need into students. We most recently launched in partnership with our cyber program, our New York City Department of Information Technology, in partnership with NYU, launched a program called NYC Cyber Fellows, which is a targeted master's program specifically creating job opportunities at the end of it to work for the city. But also, obviously, we have partnerships as part of that with a number of private companies like IBM who are deeply invested in ensuring that they can get their access to a pipeline of talent. The second area that we're investing in is just business creation and supporting businesses. We've put $30 million towards creating an accelerator and a hub in New York City to try and advance the great innovation that's happening here and make sure that we're providing that pipeline that we can to corporates, because we have a lot of the relationships and we want to be as helpful as we can getting the companies that are coming off the ground and get them in the door to sell their products. And then the third area is obviously securing the city and the public sector. It goes without saying that voter registration is something we're all terrified about protecting our electoral system. But we are, I was speaking at the blockchain conference yesterday happening across town. There are so many innovations and we need the help of the private sector in order to secure our voting systems, and the city is deeply committed to ensuring that we have the best systems available, the most secure systems, so that our voters are safe and so that our election results are valid.
Thank you for that. The other quick one I wanted to mention potentially was the partnership with Israel.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was in Israel about 2 months ago. I think everybody here knows what's happening. And what's happened in Israel is unbelievable in terms of the level of R&D. Every corporate has a R&D focused office over there just to try to make sure they're sucking up all the great innovation that's coming out of the military there, and the startups that have grown out of that. So we have as a part of that and some specific work we've been doing with them, we've been able to encourage a lot of Israeli companies to come and grow their operations in the city. And it's just a great example, as I said, New York City as the global hub for cyber. The European and Israeli companies, they want to come to New York. They don't want to go to Silicon Valley just for practical reasons. And so in that context, it's another reason why New York City makes a lot more sense in addition to the presence of the large corporates relative to the West Coast.
For us, I think the public-private partnership, the key is really the trust. When you're trying to put yourself as a company out there and trying to show the level of security that you can provide, having a government partner is really going to go a long way. The government's doing that due diligence on you, or you hope. and it builds that level. So we have a program with the city of New York where destroying data in about 8,000 apartment buildings throughout the city. There's absolutely no way that could have happened without that partnership with the city, because no buildings would just let any kind of private company across the board build that level of efficiency. And then obviously on the regulation side, it really helps just level the playing field.
We're lucky enough to be partnered with some extraordinary people who have government contracts, and we benefit from all of that because we're able to bring a depth of expertise to SMEs who would otherwise not be able to touch those kinds of assets. So ours is a more oblique relationship, but we take advantage of the fact that the best cyber minds in the world are trained by Cyber Command, NSA, CIA, DIA, pick your A. And we're fortunate in being able to harvest some of that talent and deploy it across the corporate landscape.
Great. Yeah, in my experience, especially working and servicing financial services clients here in New York, that relationship back to the federal government and the intel agencies has been incredibly valuable. And I'm not sure, well, actually, I'll flip it around. I'll say I'm quite certain that we would have seen a lot more headlines had that public-private relationship not existed to the strength of it today. Okay, so moving on, we're going to jump ahead because, as I mentioned, there's a sort of wide-ranging topics that we can cover with regard to partnerships in cyber. But the next one actually wanted to shift gears and focus a little bit on the extent to which one can partner from everything from cyber security prevention, so active prevention measures, all the way through to risk mitigation. And so what one often finds is there's always this cost-benefit analysis that exists in the fact that we don't all have unlimited budgets, and so every dollar that is spent in cybersecurity needs to be grounded in the fact that you are measuring the cost-benefit of that investment. And so there's a certain portion that absolutely needs to be spent with regard to the prevention of exploits being taken advantage of. But then the other flip side of that is, well, what's the cost-benefit if we actually sort of ensure that away or use other mitigation strategies? And so I just wanted to see what the opinions were here on the panel in terms of perhaps where you start with this, how you would advise clients in a consultative capacity to look at that when they're building their security architectures, how one would make those decisions with regard to active prevention versus mitigation.
Well, we tend to go in with a broad array of assets from a number of different potential client companies that we work with in order to create a mosaic approach to whatever the problem set is. So you're going to have a different problem set if you are a manufacturing concern rather than if you are a utility or if you're a printing group or whatever. So we'll tend to bring in a group to assess what your budgetary limitations are, what level of expertise you have. You might not need the ex-CISO of CIA as part of your group, but you may find that you're vulnerable to GDPR and NYCR 500, and we may be able to find a group that has the capacity within your budget range to give you virtual access to a CISO and chief privacy officer and all of those things. I think you need to really focus on remediation, and I love the points that Tom Kellerman was making about having a hunt team if you have the capacity to do that, because you really do need to anticipate the fact that if they're not there and already in there, they're going to be, and you need to be proactive about that. It's not possible to beat them every time. So you need to be reasonable about that and protect your data and ship it off-site and create all of those protocols, which, because so many people are heads down, they don't have the time to do. One of our potential clients is a mattress manufacturer that's growing 25% quarter over quarter. They can barely keep up with demand, but what are they going to do? And they've asked, how do we protect ourselves because we're an online provider and we have all this data? They need external sourcing for that. They're not going to hire internal, so we can help on a consultative basis.
I'll just follow up on it as well, just to think about this piece, which is, do you think that more should be done on the part of cybersecurity vendors to partner with insurance providers and the like to enhance that sort of spectrum of available services when it comes to, again, prevention versus mitigation?
I think that the problem with cybersecurity insurance right now is that it views too many things as exactly the same, and it's not a very nuanced approach, nor is it very detailed. The forms that you fill out for cybersecurity insurance are, frankly, pretty lame, generally speaking. And so I think that probably if we could assemble the panelists that we've had during the course of the day and lock them in a room with AIG and the other large insurers, we'd come out with a much better product set that's much more nuanced based on whether you are an e-commerce provider or whether you are a place that has physical locations, and what is the combo plate of those things, and how should that affect your pricing. Right now, they would have the same price if you're a shoe vendor or a shoe vendor. It's not right. But this lack of precision is due to the fact that we just don't have the data or the people in place at the insurance companies yet to really, from what I've understood, I'm not an insurance maven, but there are shortfalls in this. And if you have somebody like FedEx acquiring TNT and you have zero coverage, you're making a big mistake because you're not even asking the basic questions of yourself or your acquisition.
David, James?
I would say our perspective is a little bit different, which is when it comes to securing the public sector. And in some cases, this applies to our largest, the largest element of our attack base, which is our finance sector. You almost can't insure against the risk, the trust risk associated with the threat to the state electoral system, as an example. There's no insurance product that can be created that makes people, oh, okay, if the voting system gets hacked one time, then everyone will feel good because the government gets a large financial payout. Which I'm not, I don't say that lightly. I mean, it is a legitimately, some of these things are so fundamentally about trust, and therefore are so existential to the business's success when it's about customer trust. And when you have a financial relationship with an organization, you are relying on them with your financial assets, or in the government's case, the faith in your government. You almost can't insure against that. So I won't speak to the trade-offs of particular products, but I will say for the largest sector in New York City, which is the finance sector, 20% of our economy, in a lot of ways I think that's more existential and something that to a degree can't be insured against effectively or completely. And certainly when it applies to the government, I think it extends beyond something that is a risk that you can just mitigate with financial considerations.
Yeah, I mean, on our end, we really, the key is building a plan. You want to do as much prevention. There is no perfect solution. In the end, there will be a breach. But if you have a plan and you put in all those prevention factors in place, then you can then build your risk portfolio, and you can also be prepared to respond when something does happen. If you just focus solely on risk,
you're still not preparing yourself.
I think what's interesting about ERI is you guys as an organization sort of are an insurance product in a way, right? You've got this data destruction capability, which allows people to have a guarantee that that data is not actually out there in the universe anywhere. And that was something that you moved into, right, as a strategic driver for the business.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, essentially the way we originally built our model was as a recycling company. We were the place where all your trash, your e-scrap ended up. And that it was no longer viable when we're dealing with BII. It simply was, with everything out there, you need to know exactly what's happening to your data. I need to know, it would always start as sort of a joke. Oh, I don't want my old photos from college, ending up anywhere. And then eventually it kind of grew and grew until it became this real issue. And so, yeah, we had to completely rebuild our facilities to make sure that no data is at risk of leaving our facility until it's 100% secured and destroyed. So it's no longer a management issue. It's no longer actually out there. And depending on who you are, three-letter agency, you're going down to an NSA level destruction or a little bit less, a little bit more manageable. But regardless, you need to make sure that it's at that level where it's no longer existing.
Great. So shifting gears once again, moving to a third area of partnerships in cybersecurity. We heard from a panel earlier today, the CISO Fantasy Dream Team, what their key priorities were in terms of building out their security architectures. And so, not everyone has that CISO Dream Team, and not everyone has the unlimited budgets that a lot of those organizations actually bring to the table. So then it starts to become a question of the sort of build versus buy. And there are legitimate net costs and benefits to building a solution in-house and being able to pick and choose each of the different sort of best-of-breed products that you want to put in place versus going to a third-party provider. And so I think the other question I wanted to ask of all of you is what are the decision-making strategies that you would actually advise an organization to go through when thinking about building versus buying on the security frontier?
Our general advice is that you have to have someone within your organization who actually understands how to understand the answers to the questions that are coming at you. We're willing to educate so they can at least be a talented cyber generalist. And then, and I'm talking mostly for SMEs, because there is a huge, there's been reference to the 1 million person gap. If you have a child around who needs a job, this is the place to send them. But we create a cyber SWAT team that can help alleviate some of these concerns and can even help educate someone who is a bright person and a talented manager, a C-suite person, to be able to understand the nature of the threats that they're facing and the priorities that they should put in place in order to address prevention and remediation within their organization and be compliant with these new regulations that are coming fast and furious.
So on our end, there really isn't a build or buy option. You've got companies who are going to say, yes, I make sure I format my hard drive or I do some level of destruction before it leaves the facility. But in the end, devices have ends of life. There is going to be a legacy issue. And so it's really a matter of figuring out what protection you're able to do in-house to make sure that you are able to trust your third-party partner, and then it's doing that due diligence on your third party and knowing where it's going, not just I have somebody who's going to give me a piece of paper that says they destroyed the data, but knowing where is that actual equipment going to be destroyed.
So knowing that this was something that you shifted into as an organization later on, I'm assuming you had to build up that base of expertise in-house and then start to actually provide services according to a chain of custody and things like that. I don't know if you could speak to the breadth of services that you offer with regard to that to ensure that people have the audit trails.
Yeah, of course. I mean, in the end, it's a planning issue and it's a budget issue.